Alright, so this is where we left off with last time in our process of getting through this bacteria and content. And one of the things that we wanted to be able to keep separate, and it's one of your vocab terms, is one of them is capsules, the other one is pili. Okay, I believe that's on the slide before this. And what that means is, again, keep your P's together, that this will pass on genetic material. This glycocalyx then is a type of material that sticks with the host cell's surface. And we begin our final process in the third section. And we're talking about bacteria and health. So if someone was to be a pathologist, then what that would entail is possibly studying different types of diseases. And right now, that's probably a very important topic in the Centers for Disease Control, the World Health Organization, trying to get a handle on this pandemic of the coronavirus. Okay, now it just doesn't extend to bacteria. It would also work with viruses, which we'll be discussing next chapter. So what happens when these substances give us such problems is because of what they actually produce, okay, and would secrete into the internal environment. For instance, the infection of bronchitis, the toxins that they produce causes us to make more and more mucus. And typically, if your mucus is clear, and that'll usually happen when you're doing heavy exercise, whether it's running outside or even in athletic events. Should you feel like you have mucus in your lungs, you spit that out and it's clear. That's absolutely normal. When you have that mucus that is possibly any assorted colors of green to brown in nature, well then that's going to tell you have an infection. And therefore you be having that in your lungs, because that's what we're referring to when we say bronchitis. And it's causing those cells to produce this green mucus because they're infected, okay? Because it's also destroying some of that body tissue. So it's your body's natural process to try to fight that bacterial infection. And one of the periodicals or information that we want you to begin reading on is the gram stain process, and that can be found in the drop folder. So you'd have to go to student applications, find the biology folder, and then find a PDF file that would be entitled gram stain, because we will hopefully be getting into that process, especially talking about it next week. As we see this progress, it won't take very long to get through the viruses. As you can see, we have a vocab quiz tomorrow. We have an assignment that's due as well, besides the vocab and that of a handout that was given last week. So you still have time to work on that today, should that not be complete. So with the process of antibiotics, okay, what it's trying to do is fight that infection. And what the human body will do is some of these let's say macrophages or macrophages. In that video about salmonella, it actually grabs those bacteria, but through the process of a type of resistance, the salmonella can actually survive in those cells until the body goes through a natural change. And we'll continue watching that video so you can see what actually is happening. But otherwise, what happens is antibiotics, as you can see, whether it's penicillin, erythromycin, tetracycline, any one of those will disrupt that cell wall. And when that happens, it causes that bacteria then to die. And that's how we can get a foothold on these bacterial infections. And like the video had already said, these bacteria just don't sit around and let antibiotics wipe them out, because they will continually evolve then as well. And as the author goes on to talk about here, some of these bacteria then can become resistant to different types of antibiotics, and also different immune cells that the body produces to actually try to take care of those bacteria, like salmonella. Let's see, we got probably about 3 slides left. 1, 2, 2. Okay, yep, so just 2 slides left. So as we had scheduled for today, we'd get this chapter wrapped up for today. And with many types of bacteria that aid us, or that we actually use, as you can see, some of them is making other antibiotics, actually making insulin, and many dairy products. Without bacteria, this would not be possible. Again, a result of a lot of these antibiotic resistances is due to the overprescribed or overprescription of antibiotics that then leads to this resistance. And as we said, it's ironic that some of the infections that we get is actually in the hospital, which can be rather unfortunate. Okay, and then finally, we wrap up the chapter with this. And one of the things that we will discuss when we start reviewing for this chapter is what a symbiotic relationship then is as well. And what that means is whether it's salmonella in the chickens, or you could say some types of perhaps E. coli bacteria. Now, it's different strains that can cause different problems. And in this case, we actually provide shelter and food for different strains of E. coli bacteria, and what they help for us is to make vitamins and retain water. Okay, so that does it for chapter 23. Tomorrow we'll begin chapter 24 and discussing viruses. You have a vocab quiz tomorrow, and we'll probably get this section wrapped up this week, and then next week we'll start our evaluations. I'll get you your vocab terms for chapter 24 tomorrow, and then I think I'm going to change that in today's log to put that as due on Friday. So we'll sign that, and vocab 24 is due on Friday the 7th. All right, so that's where we're at and where we're heading. We'll catch up to you next time.